Hello and welcome to the NSF webinar on sharpening the saw, acting before there is a problem. In other words, how to use audits as a way to prevent issues becoming a crisis. I'm Mike Halliday, Executive Vice President of NSF Pharma Operations based near York in the UK. I've got a particular interest in QP training, auditor training, pharmaceutical quality systems, and of course support consultancy. There's an old story around the theme of a woodcutter realizing that to maintain efficiency, he had to sometimes stop felling trees and instead sharpen his saw. The story has been linked to Stephen Covey of 7 Habits fame, as well as to other sources, including Abraham Lincoln, who reputedly said, "Given an hour to fell a tree, I spend the first 40 minutes sharpening the axe." Covey specifically says we should take time to sharpen our saw, continually renewing oneself in mind, body, heart, and soul. Life is full of mirror moments, as I often point out on our lead auditor course, both for our businesses and for ourselves. Auditing provides mirror moments. For the purposes of today's talk, let's focus on sharpening the saw for our companies, our businesses. In my last webinar on auditing, I discussed a risk-based approach to auditing to maximize the value of the audit and driving continuous improvement from our audits. This is such a key topic that today's talk will build on that and explore some case studies where this has actually happened. One of the key messages we find from surveys of companies' audit systems is that the audit data is not used as much as it could be to really add value. So let's take a moment to think about your audits, your internal audits, your self-inspections, your supply chain audits. Are you driven by regulatory commitments, by corporate, or by yourself to just get them done, to tick the box in that audit program? We hear from regulators regularly about companies they audit who have an up-to-date audit program with impressively written audit reports which confirm that a particular supplier or contractor with critical deficiencies is approved for continued use. In our contract audit services, we are occasionally put under pressure by our clients to just attend, do a one-day audit, tick the box. We refuse. We try to explain a better way. The position's understandable, however. We are all under increasing pressure to do even more with even less. Utilization figures, increasingly globalized supply chains, business efficiency pressures drive us to a tick-the-box mentality. We all know we would rather fix, to improve, to learn, as well as look after ourselves and our very busy auditors out there auditing on our behalf. In our world as consultants, we often come across companies dying and failing under the downward spiral of tick the box. But we also have the opportunity to work with some who take the time to sharpen their saw and drive the improvements. I'll give some examples of that shortly. In our work, we all receive error signals about our business and the quality of our product. We've got failures, deviations, complaints, recalls. In addition, really valuable quality feedback data is provided by the audit process if done properly. From customer audits, self-inspections, regulatory audits, regulatory inspections. The better the audit process and the training of the auditors, the better the value of the data and the signals we can receive. We're encouraged in our blame-free cultures to see deviations as opportunities to improve, and to receive with open arms and affection the person who brings us our 20th deviation of the day or week. Okay, it's tough and doesn't immediately come naturally, but we know it's right. In the same way, our audits are not tick boxes or something to survive, so much as opportunities. A contractor who receives 0 observations from a customer audit hasn't necessarily had a great audit. They have missed a learning and improvement opportunity. But how often do we hear about heads of quality tracking metrics about how few observations they received, instead of looking at the value to the business of the good observations raised? But how often do we hear about the heads of quality tracking metrics about how few observations they received, instead of looking at the value to the business of the good observations raised? So just consider company values. Just words on a poster, or an ethos lived by everyone? Do we take the time to celebrate success? To lift our eyes above the target long enough to recognize hard work, to celebrate success? Do we really value those error signals as opportunities to improve? Do we work in the corrective action world, or more proactively, the preventive action world? Audits can be a great way to look into the proactive, preventive action. I saw a great message in the lobby of a major company recently, reminding staff as they arrived at work each morning that their product is for the patients, not for the profit. It went on to explain that if they got the quality right for the patient, then the profits would follow. That's a good message. The people I worked with at that customer site lived and breathed that message of putting the patient first through quality and service. That ethos extended to their respect for themselves and for their colleagues. Good examples of Covey's saw sharpening through behavior and culture. And that was a team of auditors living the company values. Increasingly, when we're asked to support companies sharpening their saws, a common area of interest is around behaviors, cultures, behavioral GMP. On a number of occasions, we've been contracted on the back of tough regulatory audits or inspections, or even corporate or internal audits, to have an in-depth cultural interview, to do a survey with perhaps 20 to 40 people taken at all levels across the organization. The results, presented anonymously to the site leadership teams, have seldom made pretty reading, but the news is definitely one of those things you'd rather know than not know. This one worries me. Show me the why. The operator, the junior manager, the supervisor, who didn't understand why they were expected to do certain things, why the SOP required certain actions. They didn't understand the context of their job. This was a challenge. We never follow SOPs. They're not available at the point of use. They're too complex. And they're written by people who don't know our jobs. That was a shock. I have no idea what our product actually does. So I don't understand what's critical in its manufacture. I don't understand what's important in the process. And then a rather disappointing case of one individual, hugely experienced guy who worked for 20 years with a number of major pharma companies in very senior technical positions, and all of that experience was kind of driven out of him through the induction process with his new company. missing opportunities to learn and improve from others. Interestingly enough, whilst these messages were shocking to hear about and disappointing to read for the senior management, there was a sense of we kind of knew that from some of our internal audits across most of these issues. So, no big surprises. The information was there if they had chosen to follow it up. And so it goes on. And you know, it's such a pleasure to work with companies to bring the why to a workforce, to help them understand, to encourage SOP amnesties to fix the problem, to engage that expertise so that things actually improve. These signals are all available, and they drive the behavioral investments as well as the technical ones. Get the right people doing the right things. Education. Educate, then educate, then educate some more. The saying goes that ignorance is bliss. That absolutely never applies in our industry under any circumstances. One of the single greatest acts of saw sharpening we can do is to find time to train and educate. Now, the regulations and the guidelines describe training, but we all know we really mean education. You know, we train our dogs, we educate people. Taking the time to give the staff at all levels the right level of information about their jobs to understand the why. The question almost becomes, who not to train? Who in your team is better off ignorant? Some great minds many years ago created the UK QP training syllabus. It actually forms the basis of a training program that we have taken on site to global organizations, customized to suit the audience and company, to give the context and the why. It's a broad syllabus, covers things like pharmaceutical law, medicinal chemistry, how our drugs work, formulation and processing, what's critical in the manufacturing process and key steps, microbiology, active pharmaceutical ingredients, understanding data, analysis and testing, packaging, pharmaceutical quality systems, investigational medicinal products, and the role of a QP. Smart companies have been using this program for years now to expand that education across function at all levels. And it's really great to see companies who invest in their own in-house training programs, wonderful packages that more than meet the minimum GMP refresher training requirements. Some really good evidence is out there, sharpening. Thinking about education for the auditors, these critical people who are out there finding the evidence to support our saw sharpening efforts. Whatever type of audit you're performing, take time to educate the auditors, whether they're supplier, contractor, or internal auditors. Educate them more than they are today. Challenge them to make their audits even more valuable to your organization. This can, in some circumstances, extend to giving them skills in coaching, mentoring, leading as role models, risk evaluation, and, of course, driving continuous improvement. And, as has been seen recently, the regulators can't audit your supply chain for you. It's your starting material or service. It's your product. You know the risks in your processes. You know the key criteria. It's up to you to protect your patients and your business. So what about using the data? When we step in to help a company, one of the early things we do is to gather all the error signals, trend the data, use the audit reports from customers, regulators, corporate internal audits. What are the trends, the common themes being highlighted? Is this backed up by the deviations that are being reported? At that stage, we regularly benchmark current status against our tools around a gap analysis to confirm the system's health of the business in meeting regulatory requirements, remembering that they are minimum requirement standards. Achieving industry good practice, and even assessing if we're setting a bar which is higher and more expensive than we need or can afford, stopping ourselves from gold plating everything. A plan to improve is created and then implemented. This will involve coaching, mentoring the system owners and the SMEs, and a rolling education package. In a great example of sharpening the saw, the new global head of quality for a forward-looking company contacted me and explained that there may be gaps in his knowledge of his organization. He said to me, "Do I know all I need to know?" This was based on some error signals and some good audit reports, both internal and external, but mainly on wise questioning on his part. We worked with his team to develop a plan to be implemented with his team of assessing global operations across his organization, creating specific assessment tools to add to our usual toolbox. Together, we then carried out an independent review. We analyzed the data that came out of that, educated staff in the process and the fix, worked to improve the systems that we were looking at, put in place systems to continually improve, and then having fixed that system, moved on to the next. I loved the message that we got back. Having given this very direct feedback, the head of quality was delighted. He said, "Now I know where my problems are. I can get on and fix them." That's a good example of an organization busy sharpening their saw. Once we've made these fixes, we have to maintain the improvement. Educate the why to all levels at an appropriate level of detail. Educate the auditors to perform these absolutely vital jobs for us. Drive the mentality that everyone is a continuous improvement officer. It's almost like it should be written into everyone's job description, the need to drive continuous improvement. When we think about sharpening the saw, sometimes it's important to stop and take a breath, to thank people for the hard work they're doing, that essential meeting the requirements, meeting the expectations that goes on, to celebrate the achievements, to reward and recognize hard work, to live our company and corporate values, and to put the patient first. When we think about sharpening the saw, for sustainability purposes, don't forget to plant more trees. Don't forget to train your successor. These basic approaches can be used by any company to sharpen their saw. Auditing is a fantastic way to find areas of focus. And don't forget the mirror moments. It goes both ways. When we look at our suppliers and contractors, do we see companies sharpening their saws or box tickers? Choose wisely. You pay the real price in the long run. Thank you for your time. Good luck in driving all of those improvements from your audit data. It's been Mike Halliday here. I'd love to hear your examples of using data and sharpening your saw. Thank you very much for your time.